At this overview section, and probably best if I don't go through every single detail on each page, but it's interesting that this is kind of front and center, endpoints and keys. If I'm going to go on to write a Python application to engage with this, so some kind of chat solution or expenses help solution, I might want to do that using code, and I might want to do that using Python, C#, and other options. Whatever I'm going to use to interact with it, I'm going to need the API key, and I'm going to need the endpoint. So they're up front, and we can always come back to that overview screen to get those resources, so I can pin them into my application to be able to access the, let's say, the smarts of these solutions. Okay. Other than that, see my subscription and a few other details. It's kind of introductory sort of screen. And the model catalog is hugely important, hugely important. And it's just taking a moment to load, but this is possibly the starting point. After just creating the shell of a project, this is probably the next thing you'd want to do. You'd want to have a look at some models. Now, I want to spend the next part of the session looking at models. So I'll just skip by that just now, but I will come back to this. Once you've selected a model based on the sorts of things I'm going to talk about, you might want to try it out. And Foundry gives us these playgrounds to try things out. Some of these playgrounds need a model. If I look at trying a chat playground, for example, it's saying deployment. Oh, deployment, I don't have a deployment. I need a model to actually try this. A model is deployed, and that's why we get deployment. If I try something like the translator, I can try this. I can actually engage with this. So it's going to translate a document, or it's going to translate some text. Let me translate some text. I'll make something up here. It's complete fantasy. It is a beautiful day in Melbourne. Well, it is every sort of 20 or so minutes. It really is spectacular. If I translate this into French, for example, I'll get French for that, or let's see, to pander to an important the audience. There we go. So yeah, I'm sure that says it's a beautiful day in Melbourne. Now, that in itself is nothing too special, but this is showing you a resource. It's showing you a built-in tool, a built-in deployment that does something. And whatever else we're working with in Foundry, we're going to be working with a solution. We're going to be working with a model at the center of that. And then we'll find some kind of expression for how we want to use it. In this case, it shows a tool working, it shows a component working, and that's what we use playgrounds for. And I'll show you a playground with a bit more purpose shortly. Agents. Okay, agents are built on models. Models sit in projects. And you see here, before I do anything else with an agent, I need to deploy a model. It's absolutely dependent on that. Again, that's something I will be looking at. So I'll just postpone that for a moment as well. Okay, I'm not going to set everything aside, but I will look at models in a moment, and then we'll look at agents. Templates to get us started. How good is this? That you might have an idea, and the chances of it appearing exactly as you think of it, pretty remote, but it could get you started. It can give you some ideas. It can give you, I find with this sort of thing, structure really helps me. So if you can give me the skeleton outline of some of the characteristics that my code should have and my solution should have, I can usually find a way of filling in the detail. And that's what this is very good at. So it links into GitHub, and it shows you predefined code structures that you could use to do those different things. So it's an important thing to look at. Some of the models can be fine-tuned. So if you think of a model as programming logic, so we're asking it to make associations with things that we're saying, with words that we're using. We're asking it to make predictions. We're using a model the way we would have traditionally been using machine learning structures, and ultimately a model is an expression of sort of machine learning structures and a vector arrangement of embedded terms. I don't think that makes it easier, but think of it as an application, and you put something into the application and you get something back from the application. But we can fine tune our applications by giving it predefined questions and answers, predefined inputs and expected outputs. And yeah, that's what fine tuning can allow us to do. And that gives us the opportunity with some models, not all models, it gives us the ability to take the model and what it's very good at, but just add a bit of nuance to it that makes it a bit more particular for our situation. Content understanding, generally available, so relatively, it still feels relatively new, but available in Australia East, Sweden Central, West US, and it's what it sounds like, understanding content, having complex content like video clips and pictures and free text, and getting understanding from that, building data out of the video clips that we're showing. From a maintenance perspective, we've got tracing, where we can see the detail of what's happening. A bit like tracing a call. If you're fans of The Wire, a few years ago, so putting a call trace on and seeing what's happening, seeing the message that's posted, seeing the response that's coming back, seeing how long these take. And this could be really handy if I see lots of back and forward to get basically from A to B, or lots of processing happening before I get an answer. That could be a way of looking at efficiency, taking out some steps there. So this is a pretty useful way of debugging the applications that we come up with. And not the same as that, but sort of related, would be monitoring. And we can see how we're doing. I'll click on view documentation just to show you what that might look like. So you get a nice picture of it down here, so I can see the operational metrics of the application that I've got, and you can see token usage and some other details kind of coming in live for you. Great for reporting and just reflecting on how your solutions have been working. So see some useful screenshots there. And what I've done there by clicking on that, it's very typical of this interface and many other Azure interfaces, where you get help. It's sort of running alongside you, help, saying, oh, have a look at this, here's some information about it, just to try and make sure we can get the best from these tools. Protecting and governing, we've got evaluating the performance. So performance in terms of things like speed, latency, the throughput that we can have, this sort of amount of concurrent points coming through. I need to create a resource for this, which is why I've got the error at the top. The safety of it, so ensuring you can see their ethical environment, responsible AI. If you're interested in that, search for it, but check out a webinar on considerations for AI strategy where that gets covered. So that's an important bit of feedback for us. Guardrails and controls. as well. If I go specifically into safety content filters, for example, we can look at violence and hate and set the temperature for these. So yeah, it's almost like what it sounds. It's putting in some guardrails. With risks and alerts, that's more from a security perspective, and this will snap into Microsoft Defender. We'll see governance similarly snaps into purview. So you've got the expectation then that you'd have licenses for these environments, but that would give you a very complete solution if you start adding in areas like that. You see governance there, probably Credo AI integration as well. So it's a bit of a go-to for AI governance. The existing jobs that we've got, like I don't actually have anything running, so it's not really going to help to look at stored completions and batch jobs. An example of a batch job might be, I've got a very large video clip, and what I want to do is take that as a batch and break it up into smaller portions and have these processed in parallel across different virtual machines. Something like that could be an example of a batch job. And we have our data and indexes and models and endpoints. And data is where we can add in our own, let's say, company information, so that when we ask a question, it's augmented by our local knowledge, maybe some company manuals. And I'll show you an example very much like that. And models and endpoints, that's where we deploy models. So let me go through models. That's a top to bottom description of the Foundry interface, but actually using it, this is more important. So let's get into the model catalog. And what I'm going to be talking about now, I click from one to the next, is models. There's a few of them on this, a few icons on the screen, but there are many models that do similar things and some models that are particularly good in certain areas. You might recognize some of these icons. They'll become the Nike swoosh of our day going forward. These will be, I don't know, I'm maybe expecting my son to get a DeepSeek t-shirt, or Stephen Curry will be sponsored by Claude, something like that. These are the sort of rock star labels of the day. But let me show you a little bit about models. I'll get into that. So the model catalog, and the slide said 11,000 models, and it says there 133. There's factors that make that happen. So it could be location. It's probably down to the sort of account that I've got. I'm using the free account that I get to teach courses. But if I click on see all models just up here, you can see at the side 11,000. That's where I copied the number from. There's a lot of different models. That's to say a lot of different applications, a lot of different structures with logic that we could use. And finding the right one could be the challenge. What you will probably find with this is you'll stick to the same models. You'll use a model, and let's say it doesn't go wrong or it doesn't burst into flames, so I'll maybe use it next time. But if you do have a bit of time, it might be worth having a look through what's available and what's recommended in different situations. Now, the models themselves are give quite a lot of detail associated with what they do, and gives you the ability to compare one with another. And I can see here some collections from Azure, from Anthropic. That would be an important one to go to, because that's giving you your Claude options, which are usually very highly rated. There's some open models from Hugging Face, you can see, in fact, that's the bulk of the available models, the Hugging Face models. There's 10,000 of these. That's the bulk of the 11,000 that was previously advertised. If I just pick something sort of maybe a bit more basic, I'll just go back to my model catalog rather than seeing them all. If I have a look at GPT-4, you can see various iterations of that. I'll pick one of them. Switch this to open, just to show you the sort of description that comes with it. So it tells us direct from Azure models. Select portfolio curated for their market differentiated capabilities. You can see more, see a bit of explanation about it. I can see how it stacks up against other models. Not too much detail in use cases other than just say check out responsible AI considerations. Okay, but I could take that at this point and say use model. But what I'd like to do first is maybe make a bit of a comparison. So if I click on compare models just over here, it's a kind of busy screen, so draw a line around it, compare models, and it's got some models built in that I might want to work with. I'll get rid of these and I'll add in my two models to compare. And I'll try GPT-4o first of all. Completion responses, very good, I'll confirm that. And I'll also add in, let's see, sort of kind of related model, the reasoning. Reasoning is a state-of-the-art open weight reasoning model, fine-tuned from V4 using supervised fine-tuning. So reasoning, I'll talk about reasoning in an example in just a moment. So let me confirm that. And it gives me the ability to compare these two. So I can see that of the two, the sort of X and Y axis here, I can see the higher quality of fee. The cost is less. The cost of GPT-4 is greater. The reasoning, the quality isn't as high. That might really help me make a decision. Now, there could be more factors to this. I can see some sort of typical tasks that might be performed. So if it was general knowledge, now that's giving me a lot more options there, but I can see sort of out front GPT-5. If it was something else, question answering, reasoning, of course, reasoning, you'd think that the reasoning model would be good at that. So, yeah, I would quite like it if it just kept the two in there, but yeah, that's something this does. But it gives me the chance to directly compare a few models.